famous 1974 British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa, with the visitors winning the Test series by 3-0 with the last Test match drawn. While history would remember the famous tourists as the Invincibles for their unbeaten run against every team they faced on tour, before the third Test the focus was simply on sealing a series win. Not in 78 years had the Lions claimed a Test series win against the Springboks. The Springboks were equally determined not to lose the third Test, to give them a chance to square up the series in the fourth Test. A siege mentality developed, and the selectors brought in players like Manu van Heerden and Paul Fourie to fight fire with fire. So on to 13th July 1974 at the Boet Erasmus Stadium in Port Elizabeth. The scene where in an earlier tour match against Eastern Province, Lions captain Willie John McBride for the first time called out 99. His infamous 99 call meant no line were ever left behind. An all-for-one mentality found on backing each other, come what may. In this video, I will look at the origins of the 99 call and how it led to what is now called the Battle of Boet Erasmus. Was still the end to see how the fist flew in this now infamous Test match. This as 50 years have passed since this momentous tour. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to my channel. It will be much appreciated.
The rule was that if Willie John called 99, you had to hit the nearest South African to you.
The history of it really comes from my earlier tours. And, you know, there were always bad boys on the opposite teams. And in 1962, we lost Richard Sharp, who was really our star player. We had a number of incidents, a number of injuries. 1968, we again had incidents in South Africa. And the 99 call was born or invented in 1974 tour when I was captain, and indeed it was my idea. And I remember this game, it was against Eastern Province, and I got a nod that there were a couple of bad boys in this team. And before our first test, which was the following week, there might be some things happen that they would take one of our key players out. And I had a talk with the team before the game, and I warned them of this. And I said, I hope it doesn't happen. But it could happen. And we're going to be prepared for it this time because we don't want this sort of play. And I said, right guys, if this happens, we're all in it. All of us. We stand together. No handbag stuff. This will be for real. And it will last seconds. And we will teach them a lesson not to mess. Sure enough, after half an hour, Gareth got the ball from us, from the line out. He passed it away. A guy came through the line out long after the ball had gone, and bang, he got it. And Gareth's a tough guy, but they laid him out on the ground. And I had said before this, the call will be 99. If there's a 99 call, it originally was 999, which is emergency. Too slow. So we cut it down to 99, and I said, if there's a call 99, we're all in. And of course, when Gareth got the bang, everybody saw it. The referee didn't see it. And I'll never forget, there was devastation in that field, literally in seconds. Anyway, Gareth recovered, and I can tell you there was no more messing in that game, which we won quite easily.
The Lions showed their mettle in the first major encounter of the tour against Eastern Province, who were led by Hannes Murray, the up-and-coming Springboks captain.
Slattery tries to palm it back at the back of the line-out. Edwards, Bennett, Irvin racing up, but that's Billy Steele back inside to Irvin.
At the first sign of trouble, Captain McBride was heard to shout the order 99, and the Lions waded into battle.
The game erupts in an unpleasant manner in the centre of the field. It's the sort of thing that's been boiling up for most of this game. Mervyn Davies and Slattery try to separate the two factions.
Rumour has it that South African selectors had suggested to the Eastern Province players, we'd like to see what they're made of. I think they soon found out.
We felt that it was necessary to not be intimidated, as previous teams had been over there, so it seemed to work, but the ends doesn't always justify the means.
We had to take the law into our own hands. We had to show the opposition that they couldn't punch us and kick us and hack us at any time they wanted, and they were allowed to do it. So we had to have this unity, so that on the call, on the nod, or if one of us get into trouble, everyone would get stuck in, and it sorted the trouble out.
We only did this once or twice, and the sort of news travelled, and you said, you know, don't mess around with these guys, because they're not going to take it. And when I look back now, it maybe wasn't very pretty, but it sorted out a lot of problems that the referee wasn't sorting out. So, but there's been a lot made of it. As I say, we didn't use it any more than 2 or 3 times in 22 games, so.
The 99 shout turned out to be a pre-arranged call to arms. If you took on one Lions player, you took on the lot. It was a familiar cry throughout the rest of the tour.
The Springbok team for the third test showed 8 changes to the team that lost the second test against the Lions at Loftus Versfeld. It showed the absolute desperation of the selectors to try and rescue the series. A serious loss would bring national shame. One of the newcomers was the first ever player to become a Springbok from the then South Eastern Transvaal province, now known as the Mpumalanga Pumas. His name was Paul Fourie, and after his good showing against the tourists for the Quagga Barbarians, which by the way was the first international rugby match I attended as an 11-year-old, he was selected to play for the Springboks in the third test. He was a hard-nosed player, well known for not shying away from the hard battles. My dad Fires van Vieren played provincial rugby with him for South Eastern Transvaal, and he recalled how he once asked Paul Fourie why he always fought in the field. Paul remarked that it's because while he was punching the opposition, it distracted them, leaving space in the field for his own team to score. Reflecting on the Lions tour and the third test some 30 years later, Paul Fourie said the Springboks were like lost sheep. By the third test, the Lions were a formidable unit, having played many matches together on tour, whilst the Springboks only got together the Wednesday before the test. Many of them did not know one another, so there was little time to gel as a team. As a team, he felt they would have lost against Northern Transvaal in 1974. Such little time that they had to come together. He does however feel that the Springbok team had some good players, but that the difference was the Lions backline players with talent like Gareth Edwards and JPR Williams. Let's have a look at the Battle of Boet Erasmus.
So the third test match is in, where else? Port Elizabeth, the home of punch-ups. So we went down onto that pitch, 50-odd thousand people crammed into that stadium, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited for the Springboks to run down that tunnel past us. And of course the longer we waited, the more the tension mounted. And it got to such an extent you could almost touch it. And eventually the Springboks appeared at the top of the tunnel. And it wasn't their captain that had delayed them in the dressing room, giving them a last-minute team talk. It was their then Minister for Sport. Can you imagine that? The Minister for Sport was in the dressing room. So down the tunnel they came, running at 150 miles an hour, eyeballs bulging out their sockets. And we stood there going, for goodness sake, we'd never seen a team psyched up like it in our lives before.
The 13th of July 1974. Will this be a red letter day in British rugby history?
Those 20 minutes in that game, the physical commitment of the Springboks was just immense, and I would say that's the hardest 20 minutes of rugby I've ever experienced in my life. And all credit to the Springboks, but also all credit to the Lions, because we stuck it out, defended extremely well, and then the turning point was there was hell of a punch-up.
And I remember saying to the referee, you know, look, if you don't sort this out, we'll sort it out. And I'll never forget it, because he sort of shrugged his shoulders and let's get on with the game. And I thought, well, I'm not having this. And that's when I called the players in and I said, right guys, when I call 99, we sort this out together.
It was a very hard-fought game. I had incidents where the Springboks kicked on JPR Williams. Then Willie John came up to me and he said to me, if these, I won't use the word, don't stop, they're nonsense. He said to me, Max, you'll have a ride on your hands.
Williams underneath, caught that majestically. But it's the ball they want. And it breaks out again. Max Bayes tries to come. And again, these unpleasant scenes breaking out. Both sides piling in. And some of the most appalling scenes one can ever have witnessed in a rugby test match. The fist break.
I think somebody cracked me on the back of the head.
Because that was when the 99 call had gone up.
Somebody hit somebody else, and whilst people were standing around, people were just hitting one another.
I was at the outside of it, you know, and I was looking at this going on, and I thought, this is madness.
That's Kritzinger going hell for leather for the line. Only 3 yards short, the ball buried, the fist break out. And really this is a giant free-for-all, fitting more for the boxing ring.
Well, I think there'd always been an attitude from the Springboks that the British Lions had talented sides previously, but that perhaps when the going got tough, a few of them would, inverted commas, bottle out. And I think that message came over fairly strongly to them that this Lions side was a bit different and they weren't going to be intimidated.
The thing just erupted, and all I can remember is JPR Williams running in from fullback from about 20 yards and hitting Mona Van Heerden, who was the main Springbok enemy guy involved.
Luckily the referee either didn't see me or ignored it.
Because the idea was that the referee couldn't send everyone off, so we all stuck in together. It was a little bit. I took it a little bit far, really, by running 40 metres to hit the nearest South African, because I was a long way back at full back. So it makes me laugh now, but of course you wouldn't get away with it nowadays.
JPR used to drive me nuts because he'd love to come from full back and take me. If there was ever a skirmish or a fight, he wanted to come back.
JP was running in from full back to join in because he liked a bit of the old physical stuff.
The ball buried, the fist break out.
The third test, Willie John called it once. And Gareth Edwards and Phil Bennett and I were going that way, only to see JPR passing us at great knots going this way.
Yes, it's all rather embarrassing now, 25 years later.
I never heard it, but I would, wouldn't I? I was out of the wing, and there was only 12.5 stone wet.
It was just boots and punches and biting and good, you know, a bit of fun, like the Romans days it was, you know.
It was a violent tour. I wouldn't want my son to play in a series like that again, and thank goodness those scenes will never happen again. But at that particular time, that's what was needed, and that's what the boys carried out.